when people are open to looking at the best available evidence. I think it's important to look at, to try to make decisions that are evidence driven. We leave things that are done politically affect the crime rate. We've had debates in the House of Commons, on the floor of the House of Commons for the last 100 years about penalties. What penalty? You know, more penalty. We didn't. Yeah. There's no evidence that, you know, fiddling around with the penalties has much to do with the amount of violence we experience in our culture. They knew that they were in a battle to save something that they, I think quite fairly, believe has the capacity to save human lives and to present a different kind of solution for a problem that is essentially a public health problem and not a criminal law problem. So the stakes are pretty high. I'm not hired directly by the federal government. They didn't hire me. The bureaucracy hired, the ministry, the health and welfare hired me. So it's not the same as being hired by the government. It's that combination of forces that is so important of provincial federal conflicts when you've got, you know, we have the power under 9127 legislation in relation to criminal law and procedure. That's what you know, we want to shut it down, we have the right to do so. They say, no, it's public health matters, that's within the jurisdiction of the province. But I mean, overriding it is this Section 7 argument about life, liberty, and security of the person. And so, I don't know. I think I just want to say I don't know.
In Fix, that Vandu orchestrates these with other groups, not solely, but principally, they organize these street protests. So big banners and big signs talking about death and people dying, and these are someone's children. By 97, 98, we hit over 365 overdose deaths in 1 year in British Columbia. The chief coroner writes a report saying, you know, this is out of control. The opening at UBC, the BC Centre for Excellence in HIV/AIDS, I think they started in 95, 96. Outcome of their research that the HIV seroconversion rate in the downtown east side amongst intravenous drug users is akin to a developing country like Equatorial Africa. The city says, hey, we want to draw this 4 pillars agreement. The 4 pillars approach is just policing, education, prevention, harm reduction. Let's reduce the likelihood that if we're all junkies that we're going to be vectors for disease to other people. Prevention is about trying to recognize that if you go into this lifestyle, there are lots of downsides. You know, only one of which is the stigma. And enforcement has a place, of course. And I'm at work and I get this call from Liz Evans, one of the other directors. And I can hear in her voice that she's basically in tears. She's so happy. She goes, oh my God, Russ, like, the court case just ended. We just won. And she starts screaming. She goes, we won, we won. I'm dealing with a high school student who's been partying because it's graduation. I have this law to deal with he's just been caught with illegal drugs. If I have a Hell's Angel who makes his living creating and selling these drugs, I have this person who was born into a family full of addiction and someone at 9 years old put a needle in his or her arm to share this great feeling with them and put them out on the street to earn money. And I'm not exaggerating, like I hear that kind of stuff all the time. That is what I mean by the extreme end of addiction. Like it's their lives like none of any of us could even imagine. And he's saying, I have the same law to deal with these 3 types of people in front of me. And that's go back and do your job, which is write that law properly so that it has nuance in it, so that someone like me in my job can do something with the laws instead of this ridiculous club that I have to beat everybody over the head.
We walked in carrying the coffin into City Hall. We were manhandled out. You know, at Vandu, we did so much activism in this community. We put 1,000 crosses up in Oppenheimer Park to represent how many deaths have happened from drug addiction in this city within the last 3 years. At the time, we had one time where there was 365 people died in 1 year of person a day. I mean, these are horrendous numbers. And now, I believe there's, you know, they save around 100 people for overdose almost monthly there at the Insite. And these would be 100 people that would be a hardship on our medical system, on our prison system, and everything else. Front desk, you tell them your code word or whatever, or your name, and you are then either allowed right into the back, or you may have to sit in a queue. Medical staff see, and they can look into that glass and see anybody who's overacting, you know, overdosing. at Insite, they only use half the amount of the doses that are used by these other people. So they don't wake up as aggressive, and they do come out of it, and then understand that, you know, they do have a real medical problem. This is a medical problem, not a legal one. We have, well, actually, I never did go into treatment. I just decided, woke up 3 days after getting my welfare check. I had been high for 3 days. Finally went to sleep on that 4th day. When I woke up, I said to myself, I am never doing this again. I've been drugs since I was 12 years old. I stayed within the community and fought my addiction there. I'm recovering a heroin addict. I do take methadone. Other drugs, I've done some marijuana for I'm also HIV. So I didn't get out of this game completely scot-free. There's a price for, you know, every addict in this city with their addiction. And it's not just a price paid by them, but by the families and the communities where everybody comes from. Big Brother, just so few miles away to the south of us. You know, I was really proud of Canada to take that step forward and just say, yeah, you know, we are going to do this. You know, this war on drugs is not winning. And they could start building on-site. And I thought that was such a great step forward for the Insite program, because we did not just want to set it up so that people could use and, you know, not really be referred to agencies or the methadone program or all the different aspects of health issues that people come into with, mental addiction or mental problems with addiction, and just staggering the number of people down there. And sometimes people in our society have to take a stand.
Decisions were made at the political level, certainly across all 3 levels of government, and a legal exemption was granted under the CDSA. So from a policing standpoint, we're supposed to be apolitical, we're supposed to be neutral. So really, we're the guys on the ground that had to just simply say, okay, contact center, part of the dynamic there was that the women didn't want to go there because their pimps would be lying in wait, saying, you owe me money, you need to come with me and work, you need to what have you. And so actually the contact center hit a sort of kitty corner and the Carnegie, but then the SIS became sort of a safe haven, and once again by having the police presence in the block, they felt more protected. Actual inclination is to say, well, why would we want to have anything to do with something that seems to be allowing drug use to continue? You know, I mean, that would be kind of their thinking about it. But of course, they don't have the other experience, which I had from the mid-90s of working down there, of going to more overdoses and more overdose deaths than I can count. But what you had back then was a tremendous amount of violence on the street. I mean, you literally had people getting stabbed every day. Back in 2001 as a sergeant, and the thing that struck me right away looking at the street was that everyone was overall younger and far, far more sick. I mean, in the 90s, we had situations like, you know, we'd have like the Christian groups coming down to do their good works. And, you know, we had more than a few instances of, and the girls said, I need to go find a bathroom somewhere, and one of the people down there followed them in and raped them in the washroom while their friends were outside giving out food, you know, meals and stuff like that. I mean, it was a real nasty edge, and that was partially because there was a big war going on between who was going to control the street level drug trade. He's very sympathetic and empathetic around the health issues and around their need for treatment and those sort of things. But on the other hand, those guys don't, you know, the users don't get to meet the little lady whose wedding ring that she had for 60 years and her, you know, that belonged to her husband who's passed away, ripped off so it can be melted down for its gold, right, to help pay for their fix. Comes out to take her kids to daycare because she has to get to school or get to work, and her car's been stolen. You know, when I hear a user, some cases the reform user, getting up there and say the classic statement, well, I never did crime that hurt people, meaning they did just property crime. Don't tell me that you didn't hurt people. The law becomes the tool to address negative behaviors that negatively impact other people, as opposed to we're enforcing the law because it's the law. Really what we're defining there is police discretion. In Canada, you know, we much prefer to be called police officers and peace officers, and some of us, me being an old guy, get irritated when we're called that in the American terminology of law enforcement officer. It's the entertainment zone in the downtown core. That's not from illicit substances. You know, it's from legally obtained substances, right? And abuse of them. So I mean, it's around policing. I mean, it was the citizens of Vancouver who went to the polls to basically give it an overwhelming mandate to COPE to pursue the SIS.